Chapter 1180, Different Effects. In the forsaken land of the gods, at night, when the frequency of lightning had dropped to a very low frequency, 2 slices of white bread and a piece of barbecued meat is pretty good after all. The sweet and sour desserts from the Fog Sea are better than I had expected. After swallowing the last mouthful of food, Klein sighed in amazement from the bottom of his heart. He then threw the remaining packaging into the darkness. After all, there was no concept of environmental protection here, nor was there a rubbish bin. Of course, he had removed his connection with those items ahead of time, just like how he would head over to Sephira Castle to perform sterilization every time he abandoned a marionette. This was to prevent Ammon's avatars from locking onto him with them. Lifeless objects won't be transferred into a concealed state by the darkness here. Klein raised the lantern that Danitz had sacrificed, and he illuminated the abandoned items. It was only after he filled his stomach that he was in the mood to try out the dangerous things he had previously divined. Amidst the flickering dim yellow light, Klein reached his right hand out into the air and dragged out another projection of himself. It was another version of him from the historical void, one who was also holding onto a lantern. Klein entered the grayish-white fog 1 second later, allowing his projection's consciousness to awaken. The projection was surrounded by a group of monsters. Amidst the endless darkness, it opened its mouth, planning to recite the name, Ammonizes. He didn't manage to make a single sound, as though the words he wanted to say had been concealed. Indeed, it's as I expected. Wearing a silk half-top hat and a black trench coat, Klein slowly took a deep breath. Looking at the lantern that emitted faint yellow light, he suddenly chanted in Jotun, Leodero. Before he could finish his sentence, more than 100 lightning bolts warped as if they were responding to being summoned. They instantly blanketed the area. There was no time for him to dodge. Even if he had switched places with a marionette, he would still be within the attack range. Amidst the brightening of silvery white light, he collapsed to the ground. His body was charred as he convulsed violently, as though he had become a gigantic piece of coal. Then, his figure rapidly dissipated as the illusion vanished. Wearing a real top hat, clothed in an Inti-styled windbreaker and carrying a simple lantern, Klein immediately returned to reality and continued proceeding forward as if nothing had happened. After walking for a while, his figure suddenly turned blurry and clear. Following that, Klein opened his mouth again and read out a name in Jotun. Oh. Just as he produced the first syllable, a transparent flame burst out from his body, instantly reducing him to ashes, not giving him a chance to switch places with his marionette. Klein's figure appeared once again. He pressed his hat and walked calmly on the hill filled with strange plants. Harabergen. Badhill. Umbelle. There's nothing out of the ordinary. There are no traces of the corresponding divine powers left in the vicinity of the City of Silver. Medici or Roberos, Sasrir, these are of no use, neither one of them are deities. I thought that the situation at Afternoon Town and the Giant King's Court was due to special circumstances. Using Sasrir's true name outside can activate the powers of degeneration from the forsaken land of the gods. As a king of angels with the uniqueness, Red Angel is also considered half a true god. Yet, there aren't any traces left of him. How shameful for a person, no, shameful for a king of angels. As Klein walked down the hill, he followed his spiritual intuition and headed northwest where the city ruins of Noise were. He would occasionally take a detour, occasionally using Flaming Jump, and he didn't follow the route that the City of Silver had used to explore to reach their destination. Backland late at night. Feeling that she had digested the potion a little more, Audrey very eagerly used Dream Traversal to leave her mansion and to enter the various dreams of the surrounding area. Knowing what the current situation was like, she had a strong desire to become a demigod. Just like that, she suddenly saw someone familiar. This was a noble lady who had a good relationship with her. She was 29 years old and had married a viscount 2 years ago. At this moment, the lady's room was filled with rose petals. The bed was white, and there was a heart-shaped ring placed on it, and she could hear knocking sounds from the outside. With flushed cheeks, the lady quickly walked over and opened the window. A man wearing a black iron mask and a dark cloak leaped in. He hugged the lady and whispered, "I'll take you away from your suffering." Then, the two of them started to wrap their bodies around one another as they rolled into bed. As a dreamwalker who was working hard to digest the potion, Audrey had long seen similar scenes. She had experienced the phase of feeling embarrassed, and she sighed at how everyone's dreams were full of imagination. At that moment, she didn't lose her composure at all. She maintained the etiquette of a spectator, as though she was witnessing an overly intense play. After a brief examination, she discovered a problem. The man wearing the black iron mask was the wife's spouse, but more like a particular playboy in the aristocratic circles. Is this a reflection of what's hidden in her heart? Audrey muttered to herself in an academic manner while analyzing the dream. Following that, she traversed into the dream beside her out of curiosity. This dream corresponded to the noble wife's husband, the Viscount. In the dream, this Viscount was busy attending a discussion at the House of Lords. Later, he was chased by an earl with a revolver. The latter claimed that he had tricked his daughter. After escaping to a safe zone, the Viscount found his female secretary to vent his fear. Audrey couldn't help but leave the dream, wanting to see the state the Viscount and his wife were in. In the bedroom under the illumination of the crimson moonlight, the Viscount was hugging his wife on the huge white bed. His wife was hugging him and sleeping in a very intimate manner. Yes, I have to realize that everyone has a dark side to them. It's just a dream that they've had. If conviction for a mere instantaneous thought was carried out, then everyone would descend into hell, and no one will be spared, including myself. I can control my dark side, preventing it from ever being realized in the real world. To most people, that's already considered excellent. Audrey increasingly felt that acting as a dreamwalker was a way to question and hone one's mind and body. She entered the dreamscape again and traversed to another area. Not long after, she arrived at a warm room. There was a dining table placed over a thick carpet. At the seat of honor was a white-haired old lady. To her sides were a middle-aged couple and 3 children who were not of age. They were all enjoying the delicious food, chatting and laughing. It was dark outside the room. The strong winds made the glass groan and thump as they seemed to brew a horrifying sensation before the disaster struck. What is the owner of this dream bothered about? Audrey retreated from the dream and tried to find an answer from the real world to verify her hypothesis. She then saw a small bed and the white-haired old lady. There were photo frames on the bedside table of the old lady. They were either wrapped in black cloth or white flowers, consisting of a middle-aged couple and 3 underage children. Audrey silently turned her head to look out the window, only to see that there were ruins nearby, ones left behind by an explosion. The young noble lady pursed her lips and suddenly returned to the old lady's dreams. She didn't stop the disaster that might happen. She only conjured a chair and sat on it. She looked at the happy and warm family in a solemn manner. Amidst the howling wind and glass, the room was brightly lit. There was the fragrance of food and laughter everywhere. Audrey had already concluded one of the acting principles of Dreamwalker. A traveler of a dream enters, takes in the sights and records, never interfering. That was a spectator. In St. Samuel Cathedral, having been summoned by Bishop Anthony Stephen, Leonard slowly walked up the spiral staircase under the sunlight that shone in through the stained glass. Suddenly, he said with a suppressed voice, "Old man, that secret gathering is about to begin again. Are you really planning to attempt to enter the treasures left behind by the Jacob family at the end of the month?" "I'm not sure yet, but this is an opportunity. At the very least, Ammon's main body is being tied down by the matter regarding Sephra Castle. He won't suddenly appear." In Leonard's mind, Pallas Zoroast replied with a slightly hoarse voice, "However, I'm more inclined to reveal the news of the treasure trove. I want the people at the gathering to adventure and explore it. We'll stay in the vicinity and observe the situation, taking what I need from their hands." Leonard was taken aback as he whispered, "Old man, isn't that too sinister?" This was using the members of the Hermits of Fate as tools to step into a trap. "Heh, naive, childish. You can tell them all the details and let them decide whether they want to go on their own." Pallas scoffed. Leonard didn't mention it again. Instead, he asked, Old man, when can I become a demigod? Palez chuckled. If you can obtain a spirit at the level of your former colleague's messenger, you'll be able to digest the potion by the beginning of next year. However, it's better to act according to my instructions. Engage in a deeper level of acting. Wait till the second half of next year, you'll have the qualifications to try for Sequence 4. Of course, I'm not sure if the Church of Evernight will give you the potion and hold a ritual for you. That high-ranking deacon, named Sesamir Crestet, had to wait several years before he truly became a demigod when war truly broke out, didn't he? Leonard nodded and asked thoughtfully, Old man, can you act as a spirit to help me digest the potion? Your level should be higher than Klein's messenger. Palez Zarost fell silent for a few seconds before he chortled. What a great idea. How about I help you digest the potion? How? Leonard knew that Old Man was mocking him, but he couldn't help but ask. I'll deeply parasitize you, gaining full control over your body, Palez snapped back. As he spoke, Leonard came to the door of the Backland Diocese's archbishop. He immediately shut his mouth and raised his right hand to knock on the door. Come in. Anthony Stephen glanced at Leonard, who had opened the door. You can release that vampire behind Channy's gate.